Uh, All right, welcome back, guys, to the Whine and Dyn Dynasty podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, Thomas Lucia, along with Commichigan. This week we got a good one. We got two guests with us here: Sean Sheridan, our champ, Cody Lukasik, our runner-up, second time being in the championship. Unfortunately, 0-2 record in the ship. With these guys being here with us, we were going to go over our actual dynasty draft divisions and how they played out. So I'll hand it over to the boys themselves.
All right. First, I want to tip my hat to our champion. I think, especially in this kind of format, it's seldom that the best team does end up winning it all. And through a combination of solid trades and just overall team management, I think we had that this year. So, congrats. I'm upset that it was at my expense, but well deserved, Sean.
Appreciate that. Oh, I'm muted. No, I'm not muted. All right, we're live. Yeah, divisional draft was fun. I was lucky and unlucky enough to do it with Thomas last year when he beat me in the championship. So it was nice to get that first pick. Um, so I think Cody and I both did a little bit of a tier-based approach to how we wanted to go through it and how we ranked people, with some slight differences. So the first two, it's really kind of a two-team race that you're looking at. It's either going to be Clue or Story. They're both fighting for that last position, and Cote and I were watching that very closely towards the end of the season. Um, but at the end of the day, it was it wasn't too hard of a choice. Like Thomas and Mike said last week, Clue has just been cursed with not the strongest team here. He's got a chance with Drake May, but besides that, it's some aging guys. Shakir looks okay, but not much on the bench. Not much really for assets that he's going to be able to turn into anything. Maybe back half of next season, but he's not going to get too many people going for his bench guys or his starters in the trade market through probably first full half of the season. And then even if he sells off, those are second, third round pick type guys he's going to get for it. Um, so
This
there's
this
nothing
feels
that's,
like one of those picks where you're at the podium, you give Roger Goodell a big hug. It takes you 4 seconds of being on the clock, and then you're already going back to your seat.
yeah, it didn't take it did not make too much to make this pick. I don't doubt that he could turn it around. I think he's a good manager, but the fun thing about this draft is you're not really thinking dynasty, you're thinking one season ahead. So as it pertains to next season, doesn't have a whole bunch of draft capital, doesn't have too many guys he can spin for anyone that I think is going to be a big change to his roster next year. So is a pretty easy 1-1 for me.
Yeah, I think the thing with Clue here too is he's really going to need Ayuk and Shaheed to come back and have a good year next year. He picked up Ayuk from Cody. I thought that was a pretty fair deal. It worked out for both guys. Cody had a good roster himself, and Clue picking up Ayuk was, a bona fide starter on a roster that honestly, when you looked at it, like Sean said, you had Drake May, and other than that, there wasn't too many key pieces.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He could do something for him next year. Who knows how? I don't know how big his knee injury was, but Clue's best move might be let Ayuk put up a few good games and try to spin him for a first, and then do something with that. But as far as the 25 season goes, yeah, I feel pretty comfy with him being in my division twice. And so that leaves the one other guy that we both had in this tier for Luke 61 1.2 here.
Yeah, see, I'm hearing a lot of like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a lock that Cloutier was in that spot, and at the end of the day, I did come around to that. But when I was kind of weighing in all these different factors, I'm looking at obviously the immediate transition into next year. Who's on the active roster? What are the assets for different picks in terms of how we can spin them and all of that? One of the big ones that isn't directly visible when we look at a roster is the participation. Like one of the stats I'd be interested to see is how many transactions on the waiver wire or trades did Story actually make this year. So with there was a few I don't even want to say fluky weeks because like that team does have some solid pieces, but in one of the final weeks he put up over 200 points. So I think that
Yep.
the points for is a little bit inflated. And just kind of looking at the age of the roster, like some of these, I mean, Rodgers, who knows where he is next year. Um, but because he was able to break down Mahomes into some smaller pieces, the bench does have a little bit more depth. So if he does get put into a pinch for injuries, it's not a complete wash of a year. I'm just I was pretty happy to have him at that spot as well too, just because I'm not super confident that that roster will be much better come 2025.
Yeah, and this was a fun year-end feedback note from Storytime here, who was on probation for the entirety of the 2024 season and didn't know what it meant, and neither did any of us. And
He also had a
essentially,
sponsor, sponsor secretary. I
his
think that's a factor.
his probation, he had one of our only roster fees because he didn't set a full lineup one week. He also had like Cody mentioned there, a co-manager, a sponsor to help, who I don't know if he helped besides putting a meme in the chat every once in a while. But the story teardown is inevitable at some point, and I think the piece that we're watching here is, will he find a way to keep these first rounders to actually have a future in case we have to recruit? So solid pick there.
Well,
Yeah, I think this was a two-horse race in that 1-2 pick, and then this is where the draft kind of starts to get interesting here.
for sure. I think closing remarks on this pick is like Sean and I were physically with each other and we had, some solid back and forth. But I had thrown out there, it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna pick Story. He probably won't know for a few months. And then he responded immediately in the chat. I'm like, all right, great. Now we choose to participate as soon as you're locked into playing me twice a year. That's nice.
Sean with the 1-3 pick here. This is, like I said, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, this was taking a turn from just looking for at points for on the season, not trying to draft just based off what happened in 25. Um, and it was, I don't know. I think I still feel pretty decent about it. Um, I had kind of like a mixed tier here. It was kind of like a fatter one. It was you guys, Zaller and Farrow, kind of in the same bucket of teams. I don't know him. I don't know his strategies or anything like that. So knowing the other three of you as managers, I felt like, I would rather I have more faith in them as managers because I know who they are. I think he's got a pretty good team. I mean, he's got if you pull up his roster, yeah, Jalen Hurts, not someone you really want to go against. Derrick Henry is not looking old. He's got another season or two probably of pretty good output. Taylor, who knows? He looked like kind of a ghost for a year and a half, but he's back. DK, don't know. What's his name? Lockett might retire. There's talk about that. He could get right back up there. Devontae, if uh if Rodgers is back another year, that connection looks strong. So he's got a good starting roster. Not too much for depth, but I'm not crazy about depth really. And then he's got, I think, like a bunch of second round picks, but nothing too crazy on the draft capital side. So pretty good roster. I just went, and obviously he did well from a points for standpoint and a record standpoint this season. Playoff team, but not knowing him as a manager and knowing you guys as managers, there's, the roster that he has now probably won't be the same roster that exists there in week 12. And especially for the other guys I was trying to choose against you, Thomas, Cote, and Farrow. I know that you guys are going to be active in making your rosters better throughout the season. So that's someone I'm less inclined to want to be in the same division with. So for this one, it was taking a team that did a little better, but maybe thinking that it might fall off a little bit this coming year, even though he's got a pretty strong roster. So kind of a risk, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I feel like we joke about being one injury away sometimes, and we last year had the two of you one injury away, and look at the title and runner up to show for it after a couple moves each. But for this team, if they are not an injury away, I don't know who is, because are you relying on Dobbs or is it Addison that's going to start each week? I mean, it just gets brutal. So I like the pick here. No first rounder is huge.
I like this pick here as well. I said it last week. I don't think Zalor's record tells the full story. I mean, he was 9-5. I was 6-8, and he scored 33 more points than me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got, like Sean said, he's got some solid pieces, but I don't know. I'm not super high on the roster, and I like that pick. I like that pick a lot at the 1-3.
Yeah, I think he's still kind of picking up the pieces from the initial draft when JT was 1.1. And I think just kind of looking at all the transactions and just going team side to side from year 1 to 2, now even into year 3, 4, it's like there's there's a lot of finding yourself within the dynasty format, right? And just kind of picking up little tidbits from whether it's another podcast or just content that you and your buddies are dishing back and forth. But yeah, I think that was a tough hole to dig out of. He's got a solid team, and I agree. I think it's ultimately one injury away, but I think I'm the perfect example of if you have the right guys, younger, durable folks, Taylor, Metcalf, not so much Adams, and I mean, as Sean said it best, Henry does not look his age, so I can't even put him in the running for that. Um, yeah, we'll see. I think some of those younger guys that are on the bench could very easily boom. That's usually kind of what decides these middle placements, right? Is like the people you don't expect to be that great, and they end up going off.
And one thing I did want to mention before the next pick was Zalor and Cody himself were a part of what I thought was a big trade right before the 2024 rookie draft. Zalor had Bijan Robinson and traded Cody Bijan for the 101 pick, which turned into Caleb Williams and DeAndre Swift. And how do you feel about that trade after 1 year? I was kind of a little hesitant initially, but I thought this year it played out really well for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to Bijan being healthy. Obviously, Algier got a fair share of snaps. I don't think it really took away from too many of the points that Bijan could have had. I think that team as a whole is still kind of finding their personality, just with the revolving door of different coaches and the whole quarterback debacle, obviously. But he was their workhorse by the end of it, and so yeah, I was thrilled to have him, but even more so, the one that kind of came out of nowhere for me when I was scrambling for what ultimately was going to be a bench wide receiver is when I picked up McLaurin from him.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being, I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think I sent my first rounder for this year. So McLaurin for what he was for 1.9, I mean, I'll take that. And I think, yeah, he actually sent me a second back for it. So I only moved down 10 spots in this draft with that pick. I think I've since traded my second, but again, that was kind of what I was saying. Those guys who you don't anticipate to be what did he have for total position rank? I can see it on that screen. Yeah, seventh wide receiver in PPR. That was huge.
Wow.
Yeah, so got bailed out there. Moving into my second pick, I think this is when the emotion starts to take a little bit of toll on just being able to try to deal some smack and have fun with it too. Again, Sean and I were with each other, so we were able to have some solid back and forth where within this tier, it was like a four-sided coin flip. And I think there's a lot of maybes and factors that we couldn't even possibly predict on who will end up where by the end of this upcoming year. So if I can lock in playing my rival twice for the first time ever, that'll be something I look forward to.
Yeah, this is
I,
low
I
key. He's burying the lead here. We were rivals last year, but the matchup has never hit in the playoffs, so maybe we'll get three matchups this year.
Yeah, has that happened? Three, it must have. Sean and
Cote
Faye.
ended up having that nice pick with BTJ. I think, I've said this kind of throughout the season. I think the Josh Allen trade was a big one that I think that put Sean's team over the top. I mean, we obviously didn't know CMC and T Law were going to miss as many games as they did, but Sean landing Josh Allen and Chase Brown ended up being a stud. I think that put Cote's team back a little, but he at least landed the 101 from Sean, so that helped, a little bit there.
You mean you weren't expecting 68th PPR rank for CMC? Here's the trade. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's going to be the 1-1 pick, and everything's fine.
That Chase Brown part is really the only thing that makes it feel like it this year. I mean, he's going to be. I don't think he's going to have a season like he had this year again in the NFL. But
We went back
I
and
didn't.
forth on Chase Brown too. That was
I did. I know that was just like that was a consolation because you didn't want to give me Mixon. We're like, all right, let's just give this backup running back, whatever, just to make me feel better about giving away the what we both expected to be the 101 or the 102. But yeah, that
this
was
trade deserves some life. Just the previous year trade too. The fact that that's in there as a footnote.
oh boy, yeah, McCaffrey's had a storied past in our league, and he's only cursed the owner, I think.
Yeah, so this is being my team and my rival. Hilarious, amazing pick, great job. I'm gonna ride the BTJ love all off season. So congrats, you get to give me the shit stick for now.
And yeah, I think I'll be paying the price for sending Garrett Wilson too. So what goes around comes around, right?
All right, so for Cody taking Cote off the board, that left me between two in this tier of what I had as a tier, which is Thomas and Pharaoh, or my minion, as Dalt would say. So between this, it's uh, Thomas. Yeah, Pharaoh's just got the better roster. I mean, he's. Oh, you got Thomas is up. So we'll start here. Purdy, who knows? I don't know what San Francisco's doing. He's pretty good. I mean, he's obviously better than when you first got him. He's a legitimate asset. I think Herbert's going to be fine. I think he's good. Um, Smith is solid and will probably just stay a solid wide receiver too. And then CD, someday I'll buy him off you.
Yeah, scroll down to
Um,
my IR. My roster looks terrible without showing the IR.
yeah, Rasheed Rice. That'll be
Oh,
Yeah.
Rasheed Rice will be a good pickup back in next year. But yeah, I mean it's this one just came down to Farrah's got a lot of his value in wide receiver, but I believe that, in his ability to spin off one or two of those for value to add to a different position or to get back and draft capital. Um, Bowers is a beast. Nico Collins continues to be great. JSN has come on. Harrison can't suck as much as he did this year, I would think. McConkey might be the new wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. Who knows? Not really. But
How much of your thinking going into these picks is based on purely just like fear of a 1 week matchup where someone puts up 180 points on you?
um, it wasn't. I don't know. It was mostly just trying to tier the teams. I think, yeah. I don't.
yeah. When I was thinking about it, like I think what you're kind of implying is like, are you looking at someone who can consistently put up X number of points, or somebody who can have that higher ceiling? I think, I think I gravitated more towards the consistent points for week after week. Like, is somebody is their lowest possible points going to be 120 kind of thing, or are they going to be somewhere from 85 all the way up to 180 on some crazy boom week where, one of these teams, the Bucks go off for 7 touchdowns and 4 or 5 go to Mike Evans again against me in the finals. But not, yeah, two finals appearances in a row, 3 years apart, both of which he's like 30 years old. Yeah, not bitter.
Yeah, I would have picked myself as well before Pharaoh. I really need Rashee Rice to come back and have a year for me. All season long, I was constantly having that position before the super flex of just a dud. I was constantly picking a guy who was going in and giving me 4 points or 6 points. And I really missed Rashee Rice this year. My rookie draft was not good. I passed on Ladd and Bo Nix, which, I mean, right now I'm definitely regretting. Keon just was not what I thought he was going to be. I'm hoping he kind of turns into something year two. I need him and Worthy to take the next step. Worthy kind of started to show me, or show just, I feel like the league, that he was doing well at the end there. I think it was 22, 20, it was 2 games of 20 and a game of 19 at the end. So we'll see. I got a lot to fix. It's tough looking at my lineup right now. But I can't escape Sean. I get him every single year, twice a year, and it's just a battle going against Sean. Like I said in the last one, Sean's bad week is 140. And this year, honestly, I was happy if I put up 130.
No, I'm asking the wrong person if I say, are you afraid to face anyone? Because
yeah, I just hate going against Sean. I mean, like I said, you better expect. You have to hope your team has a great week to have any chance. But I welcome the competition. I mean, I don't think I'm going to fare well in the division this year, but we'll see. I got to hit some home runs on my rookie draft this year.
Yeah, with my build, I'm not too concerned about a team with a good floor. Like someone that won't score less than 110 doesn't really raise the alarm. But teams with more home run hitters definitely are more of a threat, because I probably expect to put up like a 120, 130. So a team with a lot of pretty good players doesn't really move the needle for me, but teams and Pharaoh's got a little bit of that team too. You never know if Nico's going to go off for a bunch. Ladd's apparently going to go off for a bunch. Bowers is going to put up 20 something a game. So a little more of that high end than Thomas, just when it came down to these two in this tier that I had. So that leaves I think I know who Lukasik took next, but you can remind me, Cody.
Yeah, so I went Pharaoh next, and I think when I broke down this tier as opposed to the two we went in the final for our final selections, I think it just kind of came down to who was the most proven. Like he's got some really solid pieces. He's obviously super young for a dynasty team. There's a lot to look forward to for this. For me, it was like kind of looking at this team compared to the other two that we ended up going with for like proven talent, proven assets, where the Marvin Harrisons, even like the George Pickens, like you're kind of waiting on those guys to hit their peak. They're not quite there yet. I mean, Bowers, you can't ask for much more out of a tight end. Collins, same thing. But again, it's not one of those things where it's just two guys that are gonna piece together that entire roster. So, it I'll say it was an easy decision as compared to the other two, but any of these guys could boom and be a real asset. That'll make me be kicking this pick. But that was more or less the logic.
I think the one tough thing I said with Pharaoh's team is great roster, but kind of something that Sean mentioned earlier. I do think the one downside of Pharaoh's team is that he's got a lot of options to choose from each week, and it's hard to consistently pick those guys that are gonna boom. But yeah, I mean I agree here. I guess Pharaoh's got a lot of upside. He's got a good roster there.
Yeah, and I think for me too, I was just kind of looking at the offenses as a whole. Pulling back up again for a second for me. Like kind of breaking it down, like Stroud, obviously, I mean, I think he'll bounce back after his sophomore slump a little bit, but like Walker, I think he's gonna kind of be continuing to split carries with Sharp a little bit more. A-Chain, he was more or less dependent on if Tua was playing or not. And like look what happened with Olave and some of these other guys, where if you're on a bad team, it sometimes doesn't matter. Like freaking Dunze and maybe not so much Harrison, they were able to put up enough points, but yeah, at a certain point, I think you kind of need to reflect on what team are these players on, and is that team going to average 17 points a week or 30, like some of these top dogs, Detroit, Buffalo, all of them.
All right, this led to my least favorite decision here. Um, let's see. So okay,
This was
so you got
actually
fair.
the three-time matchup this year. You asked if anyone had done it. These two had three matchups this year, and they are beyond league mortal rivals, I'd say.
Yeah, so it was a fun kind of little game within the game of who would we draft first between these two because you're almost almost picking sides here on who you want to support as the better team. But Will's so between Will and Faye here. Will's got a good team. I picked him. I drafted him. But he's got a good roster. And let me see if I can get my screen up so I can see it. Yeah, okay, here we go. Um, he's got a roster that like I said is kind of like those home run hitters that I'm not that excited to have to face. Jaden Daniels looks really good, continues to look good. Like Thomas said last week, like Brees Hall ended up on his bench. That's how deep he is at some positions. He's got Cook, Mixon, who knows? He probably has another year left. Um, Trey Benson might still be something. And then at wide receiver, T. Higgins, if he stays in the Bengals, that might be best case. If not, he's just going to go and be a wide receiver one somewhere. Neighbors, of course, excellent. DJ Moore, Sutton, Kraft's pretty good. Doesn't have a ton of capital in this upcoming draft. So that's one thing that probably tipped it a little bit for me. Faye's got a similarly good team.
Well, we're
But
not going to let you ignore this.
yeah, that was that was that
heist.
that was good. I mean, that could be something that at the end of next year, it paid itself off for me, and then it's Brees looks like he's back to top of the dynasty landscape. But yeah, that was kind of a opportune thing of I felt like I had a team that was good enough to compete, so I wanted to push more towards guys that I thought that could give me similar output for this year. I think they're probably on an even pace at the time I made that trade, but I was looking for a guy that could give me the same sort of competitive output for this year as a team that wanted to compete and also get some future value in the form of a pick in the same way that Brees would continue to give me future value if he's healthy and doing well. So I wanted to take some of the value that Brees had in his youth and turn that into something more liquid in a pick. So get a guy that's hopefully going to compete just as well, which worked out. I mean, we all know the season Saquon had, but didn't know at that time.
I
But
think
got a
in
competitive.
any fantasy league, you're able to play on emotions a little bit and to hit on a sad, sober Giants fan right when Saquon leaves. Just opportune's the right word.
Yeah, yeah, that worked well. So that two good teams, Will and Faye, they're both good. It pains me to say it for one of those more than the other, but uh, this one was a little bit more. Faye's got he's got some good draft picks, so went Will here, and that left one pick for Cody unless he wanted to draft me. So I'll leave that decision to him here to explain.
Yeah, I think one of the few perks of coming in second is this format as well too, where right now it's left up to chance whether I have to play Sean twice. Like there's a few random weeks where it might pop up in the when it populates in sleeper, but not having to see his lineup twice was huge. And just obviously Faye fell to me as the default. But there was a lot of concern with that roster as well too. At the end of the day, he was the leader of that division for the vast majority of the weeks. Like Sean kind of having to climb out of the hole. And was it the final week of the regular season that you were able to
It
take
was
the line?
it was about maybe 2 weeks left. We had a head to head in like 14 that turned it, and then as long as I won, or 13, I think we had a head to head, and then as long as I won 14.
Oh, don't show that one.
Yeah,
So it was,
one thing we
yeah,
said
he had it.
too. Oh, sorry, Sean. I was just going to say one thing real quick. We said too was, I think with Faye's team, this was as good of a year he possibly could have got out of Joe Burrow. And Cote mentioned it last week. He still wasn't even able to bring home money this year. I think Faye's got a great roster. I don't know, and I love Faye, but I don't know. I think some guys are going to dip down a little bit next year. But he still has a great roster. I don't see him being putting up
Everyone
the
sees the
point.
shine on their team and not the dirt. And I think when you look at his team, everyone shined except AJ Brown. And, he can try to convince himself otherwise, but the luck was there for his roster, and that was the exception.
Yeah.
I gave him. I offloaded Tyreek Hill for a first. That worked out well in my favor. I thought at the time he could be a difference maker, but yeah, I was glad to sell him to Faye.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was sniffing around for Hill, didn't end up wanting to give up what it took to do it. But yeah, he's got a good roster. Gibbs could be, who knows? I mean, Dan Campbell will probably put him back to a split, but Gibbs is a freaking monster if he's getting all the carries or the majority of the carries.
That's what I was gonna say too. That was like a key injury with Montgomery going into the playoffs. It obviously didn't work out, but that was, I mean, couldn't have asked for better timing as a Gibbs owner.
Yeah, but in the words of Faye himself, he would love to see how someone could mess up his roster. So we'll love to see how that turns out this year for him.
Yeah, I hate seeing how long it is till the next rookie draft. I'm ready for the 2025 season to be here, but we got a ways to go, unfortunately.
So these are the final divisions. The too bad it doesn't show the history while we're here, but the teams are there, and it's draft time soon, so just around the corner.
Soon is relative, I guess.
Well, the other thing we were hoping to talk about today is we just got out of the wild card weekend. The wild card weekend was a couple games, but for the most part, not a lot to watch. There was some serious dud. Let me navigate back here to previous leagues. All right. But there was not a lot that we could follow outside of the Washington Tampa Bay game, but we're going to go through briefly and talk more about